Welcome to this channel. This channel is for education and culture based on historical and scientific evidence. So today I'd like to share with you the reality of Chinese Kung Fu. It is also the reality of Wing Chun, so that you'll be able to know what is going on. I started to study martial arts in 1973. That's the year I start many formal martial arts study, like Kyokushin, karate, judo, and Wing Chun. So today is 2023. It is many, many decades ago, but it feels like yesterday. Now, in this many, many decades, I have so many questions. I have so many confusions. And I spend a lot of time, energy, and money sorting out what is going on. So today, I like to share with you. The intention is that you don't have to spend the time as I wasted or the money that I wasted, and you can know what is the reality and the truth of the Kung Fu. Now, of course, this is not for everybody, right? Because only the people who want the truth of reality will walk my path, as we all do the same. To find out what is the truth and the reality, it costs a lot of time and energy and money and investment. So, the first thing I like to share with you is, we like it or not, martial arts, Kung Fu, is a fighting art, a tool to fight. Now, fighting art, martial art, that is no good or bad. It is just a tool. And in fact, one needs to be proficient with it. Otherwise, one cannot get the job done. For example, the law enforcement need to know the science of fighting. In military, you need to know that too. And law enforcement, military is to protect the common people. So there's no good or bad in martial arts. The problem is the poison in human, the greed, the hatred, and the ignorance. When one is having those toxic in one's heart and using the fighting skill or martial arts skill to carry out the hatred, the greed, and the ignorance, that is where the bad and evil come. So we need to really clear on what we are doing. Okay? Now, Kung Fu today is a really messed up thing. for past 100 something years since the end of the Qing dynasty, Kung Fu, fighting art, martial art, Wing Chun, is actually a mess. Now, we need to know, number one, Kung Fu is a fighting art. It is not Buddhism. It's not Taoism. It's not meditations. Buddha's Taoist teaching is different. It's not martial arts. They are different. Every one of them have its objective or have its goal. Martial art is for fighting skill. Buddhist, the Buddha's teaching is for end the suffering. The Taoist teaching is to be one with the natural. So all of them are different. Don't mix them together. Okay? Now, today's Kung Fu, it doesn't matter it is Wing Chun or Tai Chi or whatever internal. It is a mess. Why it is a mess? Because today's Kung Fu, number one, it is about stories, superiority, complex stories. You always heard about the stories of my grandmaster is the invincible fighter. And then they tell all kinds of stories of that style, that lineage, that family. That is the really common, right? When you talk about Kung Fu, you say, oh, it's from belong to this style. And these styles have this, the king of the Wing Chun. And then it has this, and it is all about superiority complex. And at the end, say, well, you know, I belong to this family. So number one thing about Kung Fu today, disregard of style, including Wing Chun, is about superiority complex stories. But how many of these stories can be verified by history? Go check it in the entire China. It is made up. There's no such thing as burning of Shaolin and you have Jixim fighting anti-Qing. There is no such thing as Zhang Sanfeng created the Tai Chi. It is just a story. And many people believe on it and then are having their superiority complex of I belong to this group, and it is like a cult presenting all the stories. The second thing is, in Kung Fu, is philosophy. We have this Taoist philosophy, this Yi Jing philosophy, this hexagon philosophy, this Buddha's teaching philosophy, this Zen philosophy. Well, what is those got to do anything to do with the fighting arts? Zero. But it has all this philosophy to make it sound really deep. Really, really superior. To back the stories, superiority complex stories. So it's like a cult. The third thing is magic. I have this qi power, this 丹田, 心气 to 丹田, And I had this mind power. If you do this sets long enough, you can have this. And this kind of thing is related to Buddhists, to the Taoists. Serious? Where is it got to do with all this Taoist and Buddhist stuff? So what is Xing Qi Du Dan Tian? You ask 10 people give you 10 solutions or 10 answers. Magic. There's a third thing. Oh, today when you talk about kungfu. The fourth thing, hand techniques. Tai Chi have this hand techniques. Wing Chun have this hand techniques. Invincible hand techniques. So there's the fourth thing. The fifth thing is demonstrations. Demonstrations of this hand techniques or this party tricks, which they call qi. Get somebody who have no training in martial arts and just do all these party tricks, which they call qi, which they call the hand technique, martial art techniques. So this is entire thing is kung fu. Start from stories where it introduces, it talk about their ancestor, whoever create the styles, to the philosophy. Yeah, it got to do with Yi Jing and Tai Chi and Zen. And then with this magic, and then with this techniques, and then with some demonstrations. That's what Kung Fu is today. You look around here in the entire world, including in the China. Does China have any real Kung Fu? Probably there are some real knowledgeable and experienced Kung Fu teacher or practitioner. But most, it is just this 5 things: stories, philosophy, magic, techniques, demonstrations. This is living in one Kung Fu fantasy world. And then you have movie to preach this type of Kung Fu. That's what Kung Fu is today, Chinese Kung Fu. Okay? And all of this, up to now, got nothing to do with fighting. What is the story of the ancestor who fought who is the best fighter, who is the king of this martial art, or the king of Wing Chun, got to do with fighting? Besides, it's a story. The second, what is all this philosophy got to do with fighting? The skill training and development. And then all this magic, what is it got to do with the fighting training and developing the skill of fighting? And then the demonstrations, you get somebody who don't know what is the martial art, and then you you do something to him, doing some tricks to him. What is this got to do with fighting? Zero. But people love to live in this Kung Fu world, which is beyond the reality or outside the reality. So look around the world, see what I'm telling you is true or not. Look at the 5 things. Now, as for Wing Chun, because of the movies, because of all the propaganda, brainwashing on this 5 things I just shared with you, when you think about Wing Chun, it's just like this. Okay? Your hand techniques, your wooden dummy, your chi sao. What is within that 5 things I just shared with you about Kung Fu? Tai Chi have their same thing. Wing Chun have their same thing. Everybody have that 5 thing, but they just present it in a different way. And this is the Wing Chun way. So, sorry, if you want to learn fighting art, you are in a fantasy world. Sure, you can go fight a person who is much weaker than you or bully somebody. But there's no way you can face the reality. So you might say, well, Hendrik, you're just putting down the Chinese Kung Fu and Wing Chun. Sorry to tell you that this is Bruce Lee. 60 years ago, 1964, he's frustrated. By 1969, he wrote this letter. Now the entire China and everybody know. Bruce called Chinese martial arts land swimming. Wing Chun is the same. So all this stuff, according to Bruce Lee, not Hendrik Santo, is land swimming. This is 1969, 50-something years ago, right? Now, so we are talking about just now about those the 5 things. Remember, the story, the philosophy, the magic, the special techniques, and the demonstrations. Well, Bruce Lee called that land swimming. Now, when you get into today's, like this is the case you will meet in a real life. Can those Kung Fu solving this case where people train in this, which is exists in, say, in jiu-jitsu, in judo, in wrestling, can they solve this? Disregard of how good is their stories, their philosophy, their magic, their techniques, and their demonstration. Can they solve this type of thing? When combat, when fighting get into this? Obviously, it cannot. Will you be able to do this kind of thing? Like 470 years ago, when the Japanese warrior invading the coast of China, the warrior with the pirates, the Japanese pirates, disturbing the coast of China 470 years ago. They used samurai sword and they used jiu-jitsu. The warrior, the Japanese warrior. So can others Kung Fu today, which have the 5 characteristics, facing this type of a reality in fighting? Of course not. Have you ever seen people who train this way handle this kind of thing in UFC, in MMA since 1996? Of course not. So end up the Wing Chuner go and study BJJ and so forth, or wrestling or judo, right? So that 5 thing type of kung fu, what good is it? It's useless. Everybody know, but they still call it Wing Chun, even though they are using BJJ in their fight. And in the competition, in the fight, it is just BJJ versus BJJ. There's no Wing Chun versus BJJ or Wing Chun versus Jiu-Jitsu or Judo. It is just the reality that way. That's why you don't want to blame at me. Even 60 years ago, 50 something years ago, Bruce Lee have already tell you, those stuff is just land swimming, Chinese Kung Fu. Now, if you look at this, get deeper. This is the podcast, Joko podcast between Joko and Rickson Gracia. One of a really good fighter, excellent fighter in our time, Rickson Gracia of BJJ. If you look at this, what he say here, I just breathing, my relaxed breathing, I can sleep deeply. Okay, and movement and breathing is together. And then when he go fight, he said that keep up with me. So when his heart rate is 80 and the opponent is 110. So when he putting his heartbeat to 160, 140, then the opponent will get into issue. Now, so what is this he's talking about? And obviously he's doing like Gracia Jiu-Jitsu. And he have this in-depth of relaxing his body, okay, sleep deeply. And then at exertions in fighting, he have handling on his heart rate, meaning that the intensity. Now, I ask everybody a question. You're keeping having your superiority stories. My Sifu is the king of Wing Chun. And then I belong to that thing too, that lineage, that teaching. And then this is from the Buddhist temple. And then I have this magic mind power. And then I have these techniques. And then I have these demonstrations to show that I'm the grandmaster. So my question is, how come none of this address how to handle, just now I just shared with you on the when you get close, be it is from Jiu-Jitsu, Judo, wrestling. How am I going to solve that problem? Not to mention the 470 years ago when the Japanese warrior come with the samurai sword and the Jiu-Jitsu when they get close. Okay. And then when our friend Rickson Gracia talk about that control of the breath, the breathing, control about his body state into deep rest, deep sleep, and control in the exertions, high intensity fight. How is that 5 thing? And how is that so-called internal of all the Sifus? I have Xing Qi to Dan Tian. I have the magic Qi. And how is it going to face like a fighter like Rickson, who have handling on his body's intensity, exertions? And when we use heart rate as a a standard because heart rate is scientific. So the question is, which grandmaster in this entire world be able to know what Rickson is talking about? Now you got a really deep, serious problem in Chinese Kung Fu. Disregard of your internal Tai Chi, Bagua, Wing Chun, whatever. Do you know what Rickson is talking about? Do you have the ability to do what Rickson do? If you don't even have idea what it is, how the hell are you going to train? How the world are you going to face the martial artists today like Rickson? We're not talking about winning who is the best fighter. We're just talking about, do you have the knowledge, the education to know what the heck is in the real world? On the close fighting and on the control of your body intensity and put your body into rest. Well, so it is very clear now, living inside that Chinese Kung Fu fantasy, disregarding of what is the style within the stories to show your superior complex, the philosophy to support your superiority complex, and then the magic, Jing, mind power, and then the techniques, and then the demonstrations, got nothing to do with what you're going to face in the reality. So is there any Chinese Kung Fu there in the real world? No, it is zero. It's practically living in a fantasy deluded world. But is that a real Chinese Kung Fu? Well, the answer is no. The answer is no. It is just that this past 100 years, everybody learned from each other to live in that five characteristics Kung Fu world. Wing Chun create its own world with these five characteristics. Tai Chi create his own world. So when Xi Xiaodong, who is MMA, who is like in this train like Rickson and train in like in the Jiu-Jitsu, go fighting the Wing Chun guys and the Tai Chi guy, everybody collapse. Were you surprised? There's no surprise. You look at technology, what the heck are you doing? Your Kung Fu world actually is off target, off topic. So you expect that. So that's why everybody shut up when Xi Xiaodong say, hey, you know, you guys are all fake. It is fake. Now, so what is a real Kung Fu? What is a real Wing Chun? This is a teaching of General Qi Ji Guang. Remember, the person who lead his army, train and educate his army, defeated the Japanese warrior, Japanese pirate, Qi Ji Guang. He said this, there is a common saying, one will not be able to respond to an unrecognized attack. Which means, if you're living in your Kung Fu deluded fantasy world, you will never be able to respond to unrecognized attack. You will not be able to respond to this type of body condition. You will not be able to respond to this like in the 470 years ago, and you will not be able to respond to this in today's world. So 470 years ago, General Qi Ji Guang already tell you that. That's a real Chinese Kung Fu. Not this kungfu were the 5 things I just shared with you. Okay? So that's why I translate and I describe everything as it is. I put it in my book on what is really Chinese Kung Fu, which got to do with the 5 things I just tell you. Hey, fighting is fighting, okay? Now, speak of Wing Chun. Wing Chun never is like this. This is what is the evolutions based on that 5 thing I tell you just now. After 100 years, it end up be like that. It's living in his own world. That's why Bruce Lee 60 years ago telling him there is land swimming. Okay? So if you want to go against me and say, please don't. Bruce say that. Okay? Bruce Lee say that by evidence. He know it 60 years ago. So I'm just following what he's saying. And I know what he say is true because I just share with you all this problem here. And so this is general Qi Ji Guangs. We like it or not, the real Kung Fu, the real Chinese Kung Fu is presented even 470 years ago. Okay? Of course, thing is evolve, expand, develop further, but the principle of martial art is there. The principle of fighting is there. Okay? Now, so we need to get this really straight. And always he said that one need to have a broad combat knowledge and keep on learning. And the one who can predict the momentum trends win. You need to keep learning. You need to keep updating yourself because it is a technology, it is a skill. Now you get to the Wing Chun. Wing Chun is a sticking body short strike based from Shaolin Temple. And Shaolin Temple is actually an offspring of the General Qi Ji Guang's Ming Dynasty military training when it comes to fighting art. Okay? So it really clearly describes what it is. So yesterday, I shared the basic of Wing Chun version 2. So this is the descriptions of the short strike art, which is a 4-arm art, the leg, the body, the 2-arm. That's why it's very important to know what are you doing. Okay? And then also within this 4-arm art, you have the techniques, the attacks, the techniques, and the mechanism you need to know in order to handle the opponent in fighting, which is, this is the palm facing down type of mechanism or mechanics. Okay. So whenever the attack exists in the same level of your solar plexus or above your solar plexus, this is a very optimal type of the palm facing ground. Is the optimal type. You know, please watch this video. Whenever the attack and the counter is in the navel or under level, your palm has to face sky. You are not going to use the palm facing ground techniques here. Okay? Because that is not optimized for human body. So you need to know this for reality. which is really contradict or really different than this, where you have no idea what is going on the body mechanics. Because in the real body mechanics, one have to face this type of attack. Okay? Now, so there's the body mechanics. Now, one need to know how to engage in the fight. Yes, how to engage in the fight. Not this type of hand techniques. Using these hand techniques versus the other hand techniques, as I just shared with you. The fourth of the five kungfu stuff, right? This hand technique, that hand techniques. No, you need to know how you going to confront or attack or counter your opponent. And this is the first thing, meaning you slips in. Meaning that face to face, how is going to go direct in, slips in. That is one type of confrontations. And that is how one need to know when fighting happen that way, face to face, what you should do. Well, your opponent might attack you that way, and you might attack your opponent that way, based on your judgment of, is it a good way to get in? It's like making a wall. What is the best way? Should I come from the sea first, or I landed from the sky, or I just march through the border from the ground? You need to know. So this one is slips in face to face. Okay. This one is you dodge out, and you dodge out, but you attack. You move in while you are dodging out on one direction. This is on the other directions. Okay, so this is slips in. You notice the leg here, slips in. Just go direct in. This one is you move, say from here, facing face to face. It actually move, dodge here to move in here, attack from here, come from these directions. And this one is actually come from this direction. So please watch this thing, this video. And there's another one, which is duck under. You dodge, duck under, in. Okay. So basically in Wing Chun, you have this 4 type of engaging or fighting confrontations location you want. You choose on it. You look at the opponent. Are you going to go straight in? If you have a lot of speeds, probably you can do that. Or you just dodge out, in the same time get in on one way, or you dodge out, come from the other angle, or you just go dodge, go under, duck under. Well, it has to base on what is the opponent's strength and your calculations and everything, because fighting is a premeditative thing. Fighting is not standing down there to do your hand techniques. Okay? Now, of course, your opponent is going to choose the confrontations angle and the zone or the location which they feel the best for them. So you need to have this 1, 2, 3, 4 to play with. When you face the opponent square, you already know. Either going to go slips in, either going to go dodge this way, attack this way, or dodge coming in from this way, or go duck under, go in. So if my left side, this is my right hand is the lead hand. If I have 4 ways to come in here, there's another 3 ways I can come in here. So it's like playing chess. When you face your opponent, you decide. But sometimes you cannot decide because the opponent can move faster than you or trick you to get into different positions. So you need to guard those 4 gates or 4 confrontations zone. Now, without you be able to know all the zone, there's no way you can fight him because you don't. It go back to this. One will not be able to respond to an unrecognized attack. If your Wing Chun is only like this, or Tan or Bong is like this, how are you going to respond to slips in? How are you going to respond to the dodge and move in this way, dodge and move in this way? To the words as we see today on and on is Wing Chun have no guts against this. Duck under it. Look at the Wing Chun history record since 1996. There is no Wing Chun guarding against this. When people do this, it's guaranteed going down. Unless you go learn BJJ or you learn Jiu-Jitsu or wrestling. So we know it very clearly technologically. Wing Chun do not have this type of arm mechanics where your palm face up high. Wing Chun do not have the duck under type of combat skill or technology. That's why anybody, when they go duck under, close like this, Wing Chun are gone. Look at it since 1996. Almost 30 years now. The same thing happened again and again and again and again. There's no counter at all. So that's how good it is, this type of stuff. You practically empty under here. You have practically empty under here. When people duck in, gone, it's over. That's why Bruce saying that it is land swimming. Now, that is the opening. And so what is this about? Well, that is about the well-known plum flower footwork. There's 4 types of confrontations. Okay, there's 4 types of confrontations. The slips in, the dodge sideways, the duck under attack. All is about the plum flower footwork. Okay. So plum flower footwork is not today's everybody put some kind of lock under the ground and then walk around like a plum flower. No, it's not. It is about choosing where I want to engage, where I want to confront, and also counter what if our opponent get in from this door. So this is called open door. Open the door. Door is the place to confrontation, like you open the door to the room. What if your opponent go into the door to confront you? How are you going to counter it? And also, you also can choose the door to confront or to attack your opponent. That's got to do with this. That's why you have this. See this? See this? This is the plum flower. This is the zigzag. So this is the zigzag. That's how you get in. Dodge in. And this is the plum flower, where you can get, you dodge or you go under. So all this, the plum flower stuff is the basic is summarized in this thing. 1, this is the sleep, 2, 3, 4. If you know this, then you read this, then you say, oh yeah, I understand now. Now how it get in. So in fact, it is already there hundreds of years ago. And this got nothing to do with that 5 thing I just shared with you, right? This is reality, the real world. The entire thing is in my book, Resurrecting Wing Chun. Now, if you don't understand this, if you don't understand this, then you will not know how to read this thing in the ancient. You will not know how to read this, and you will not know how to read my book. But now you after you see this, you'll be able to know, oh yeah, it is this. This is how clear it is. Okay? Now, we like it or not, the ancient Wing Chun have the train of the nurture chi, which is for the deep recovery, the fitness, which is the aerobic endurance today, and the martial art training, the strengthening training. Like you go to the full accelerated in-post momentum handling at fighting, accelerate in-post momentum handling at fighting. And now you can see that this is the heart rate. You have all the heart rate assigned or mapped into it. So you know how intense is your body when you get into that state. You need to train that way. So it's measurable, like your heart rate, your breathing rate, your heart rate variability, your endurance, your VO2 max. So it is in decoding Wing Chun. Now, if you have this training, of course, you're going to understand what is Rickson said. You understand clearly where he is. Okay? Sleep deeply. Oh, relaxed breathing. Oh, that belongs to the recovery. Oh, putting my heartbeat to my heart rate to 160, 140. Oh, that is belong to the fighting level 2. Okay? And you say, yeah, you know, say Rickson is talking about his heart rate 160 and so forth. Well, I'm older than him. I'm 60 something. So his heart rate can go even higher than me because heart rate, the maximum heart rate is proportional to your age. The older you are, the heart rate is not going to get that high. So like, for example, this is mine, okay? So I can last 6.41 minutes in this 150, 160, 170 something zone. $160, $140. So it's not that I'm a good fighter. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm just telling you that you need to know what is your opponent is talking about. Now, if you don't have this training, okay, you don't have this training like the deep recovery, you have the natural deep breathing, and your warm up, your cool down, and then your input handling. How are you going to know with the heart rate? So this is the heart rate, the breathing. If you don't know this, you never trained this way, how can you know what is Rickson is talking about? How can you know what he's talking about? How can you know what he's talking about? So if you look at the 5 things in Chinese Kung Fu today, right? The 5 norm stories. The king of Wing Chun is my Sifu. Or the invincible guy is my Tai Chi teacher. Philosophy is Buddhist or Taoist, magic power, mind power, or Fa Jing, or Xing Qi to Dan Tian. Or you see, I have this way of techniques, that way of Tan Bong Fu, and this is how I can demo. You see a demo. How are you going to face the real world when people talk about how high your heart rate can be? Can you handle your heart rate? Can you going down to recovery? Can you going up to high intensity exertions? Those are real world. Yet your 5 norm here is living in a different world. And then when you want to get into fighting techniques, you say, well, this is Tan Sao, this Bong Sao, this Fuk Sao. Well, let me ask you, is that come straight, slips in? Is that dodge, attack, open at the door like this, confront here, or duck under? Now, what if my opponent go duck under? How the hell I'm going to manage him? How we don't even talk about fighting. We talk about, okay, if duck under, I want to run away. At least you know that, oh, this is a duck under. I'm going to run away. I'm not even fighting. I'm no good. I'm chicken. But at least I know, oh, it's the science. He's going to go sleep straight. He's going to go attack from this angle, dodge in here, under, duck under. We don't even have to go fighting. That's the first thing you want to train your student. For self-defense, self-defense means walk away. And you have to judge the situations. If you don't have this door opening or confrontation thing, this 4 case I just shared with you on the other video, how the world you know how people is going to attack you? And if you don't know, you don't recognize it. 470 years ago, General Chi Chi Guang already tell you, what you don't recognize is going to gut you, okay? So I have shared with you the 5 norms of today's fantasy or delusional world kung fu of the entire world, which is deadly. It is a land swimming for Bruce Lee. In the real world, you need to know your characteristics of your uniqueness of your style. You need to know the proper mechanics so that you can handle when the attack come from different parts of body, the upper part of body, lower part of body. You need to know where the confrontation will exist. You choose the confrontation point, or your opponent will choose your confrontation point, or you see the confrontation point, you run away. Because the art of fighting doesn't mean that you have to be violent and you have to be fighting all the time. You can just walk away. And then your body conditioning, you need to know your recovery, you need to know your fitness training, you need to know your fighting exertions, intensity handling, like our friend Rickson Gracia, who is excellent fighter. He have that control. Now you want to call yourself Grandmaster, King of Wing Chun, King of this, King of that. Do you have those type, like Rickson type of training? We're not even talking about you a better fighter than Rickson. We just talk about the basic educations and science. Do we know that? If we don't know that, it's like what? It's like we are in the tribe having the spear and arrow, thinking that we are the king of the world, while we have no idea that, hey man, people is using missile with infrared tracking today. Do you know what is a missile with infrared tracking? You're going to shoot somebody or spear somebody when your opponent is using infrared tracking missile. So this is what I like to share with you. Hopefully you see what I'm talking about. Between the delusion Wing Chun or delusion kungfu and the real world in fighting arts. Or else we are cheating ourselves. It's not Zen at all, because Zen teaching is don't cheat yourself, don't cheat others, don't get cheated by others. That's Zen, okay? So I hope that I clear this thing for you. Don't waste time on that 5 thing there. And if you are in the trap of that 5 thing, get out. Because you know it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to spiral you in, and forever it just eat your energy, your money, your time, your life. What is the point? It's better to go do something useful for yourself. So this is what I like to share with you today. I know a lot of people will not like this. Well, as in every change in the world, the first people will resist it, fighting it, and then become helpless and have to accept it. And then life move on. Right now, Kung Fu is in the threshold of, as I present you this video, in the threshold of the beginning of the change, that you can see that people were against it, resist it, and it might take months. But this is how evolution has to take place, or else your entire Chinese Kung Fu is gone. Now, up to now, I didn't say Wing Chun is no good. I don't say Tai Chi is no good. I just say that for past 100 something years, people get into this fantasy delusion world, while in the ancient Chinese is not talking about that. And it is this delusion world is feeding itself, making more movies, making more stories, brainwash people, and then it's feeding itself into here. A lot of energy is wasted here. But it never be able to open under the sun because it never works. So next time anybody talk about, I have internal Kung Fu, I have the Xing Qi to Dantian, you ask him, so can you handle your heart rate like our friend Gracie, Rickson Gracie? Can you handle like him? If I want my heart rate to accelerate to 160, or I want to drop it down to 80, to 60 because I need to have a deep rest. Can you handle that? If you cannot handle that via your breathing, forget about this internal qi, xing qi to dantian. This all is fantasy.